fiber into a telco. Our hosted PBX is onsip.com, and you can go to getonsip.com for a URL people can click to call you. We've been privileged over the last 5 years to be using the best conference bridge on the planet. Yes, I'm talking about zipdx.com, full color, full featured, full HD conference bridge. Our website, bluehost.com. And our worldwide local rate dial-ins are from voxbone.com. This is VUC 594, May 13th, 2016. I am operating at a reduced frame rate on both audio and video. But do not forget, Your World, May 8th to 20th. That's next week. I'm going to turn it over to Ken Rice, who's going to tell us all about ClueCon and FreeSwitch while we wait. Hey, Ken, it's good to have you, as always.
Hey, thanks, Rady. How you guys doing this morning? Yeah, for those guys that are in Berlin or whatever, or near that area, you guys should be going to Camellia World next week. You will see a lot of people there from all over the VoIP community. Including from the FreeSwitch team, we have Kathleen and William King there next week. So you guys find them, say hi, and then they will tell you all about ClueCon also. But coming up in August, we have ClueCon, and this year it's going to be bigger and better than ever. We've already got several sponsors lined up. We've got this year we're going to have all kinds of stuff. Of course, WebRTC will be back in full force as that continues to grow. This year we're adding, we're going to be expanding the hackathon, and it'll be not just software, so we'll have APIs from all the fun vendors out there, but we'll also have things like Arduino and Raspberry Pi hardware hacking and 3D printing for people to play with. As the Internet of Things continues to grow, we're going to start featuring a lot more of that. So I think everybody will get a kick out of that this year. I know, of course, you know, we'll have the repeat offenders back. I think we'll even have, I think there's a good possibility you may see Mr. Bodie and Mr. Smith there this year, along with, you know, the regular guys that show up at ClueCon. We've got a new hotel this year with even more space. And for the first time ever at ClueCon, we will not be dealing with the hotel's IP network. Windstream has been kind enough to sponsor bringing in a full dedicated connection for us. And so we'll have a completely separate network from the hotel, so you don't have to worry about somebody watching Netflix upstairs killing out the conference. So that'll be really, really cool this year. So a lot of stuff going on there. Registration's open. And if you want to speak at ClueCon, you can go to cluecon.com and submit your speaking proposals now. And if you've got your budgets to contend with and you want to make sure that gets billed in Q3 for ClueCon, you can go sign up today, use the buy now, pay later option, and you'll get an invoice for your bean counters for the right period for you guys to have to deal with corporate bean counters. So that's coming up real soon. So get on in there today. Thanks for Randy for letting me get that plug in there.
Hey, we're always happy, and since I don't know what I sound like, let's see if Tim can speak to us. He doesn't have video, I don't think, but hey, Tim. So far,
he unmuted though. I know he's muted again. Ah, we didn't hear you, Tim, but you're definitely there. Phone. No, Tim's protocols are deciding to fail on him right this very second.
I just realized that if I dialed in on the low bandwidth to ZipDX, that's not, well, that won't make any sense. I could try dialing on my phone. Huh. Well, we're going to have a problem here. Anyway. Let's just have silence. 10 minutes of silence until James gets home.
You will hear silence. I have a couple of questions for Ken. So you have a 3D printer company coming to ClueCon this year.
Yeah, we're not quite ready to say who it is yet. We're working on the press releases with those guys. But we do have a 3D printer company. They are known for making Delta-style 3D printers that use the polar, coordinate type system. And they will be bringing at least one printer to give away to a ClueCon attendee. And they'll also be bringing some other printers to play with while we're there, along with a pile of filament. So get ready to print something.
So yeah, so bring your CAD models of the broken bits of things that you snapped during the year, and you just might get them fixed at ClueCon.
Exactly. So I'm pretty sure there'll be some demos of not only doing the printing, but also designing stuff with some of the various free CAD softwares that are out there, so that you can draw your parts and print them out. So I don't know how much time we'll be able to allot, because I just don't know how many printers are going to be there yet for various people to play with, but they will be there. Unfortunately, it can take a while to print some parts, so it's one of those things.
Okay, so there's no plans for a 3D printing module to go into FreeSwitch at the moment, then?
Not at this time. We have thrown around adding, using Verdo and adding that into the Octopi package, which is a little print server package to run on a Raspberry Pi to drive most of the 3D printers that are out there now. So we've thrown that around a little bit, but I don't think anybody's started hacking on that yet. But I do think that we will see some things at ClueCon that might have been 3D printed, like this thing right here.
Oh.
Which is only about a 20-minute or 30-minute print. So I don't know how well that's showing up on camera. This plastic has a UV enhancer.
It's showing very well.
Yeah, this you can get all kinds of plastics. So I don't know what we're going to have for plastics for printing at ClueCon. A sponsor will be bringing that, and so you never know what colors you're going to end up with in something like that. So should be quite interesting. You mix that with I think the Raspberry Pis and the Arduinos and the various bits for that will be there. Might be some really interesting stuff come out of that.
That'll be interesting. Certainly something of a departure from talking purely about VoIP.
Well, I mean, if you look at where, as with FreeSwitch has continued to evolve over the years, so has ClueCon. So, I mean, the very first ClueCon, FreeSwitch didn't exist yet, and it was all about SIP and deploying SIP networks. And then here we are 12 years later, and WebRTC, not just voice, but video. And we see a lot of microservices that are coming out now, mixing in things like Docker so you can spin it up and spin it down as required. IoT is taking off like a storm. So, we're going to include that kind of thing. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what we come up with. I think IoT is important enough that we need to talk about it. And we need to pay attention to it, not just from what can we do, but also making sure that people are working on that or securing their services, because we've seen a lot of, how should we say, security failures in that area as of late. And so I think, getting people involved with that and thinking about the security implications as well as what they're working on and sharing that with the group is going to be really, really cool. I mean, we don't think of it as an IoT, but I mean, something like Nissan Leafs, a car, they're IoT connected. So you have an app to control it on your phone.
Well, yeah, okay, unless you're Brian when you've turned it off, I think. But
well, yeah, Brian had to turn his off because unfortunately they left a massive security hole. So.
And being as he works around you guys, none of you guys would ever interfere with his car at all, would you?
Oh, no.
Have you seen Gecky's thing about pulling his tester out of the drive using Alexa?
Oh yes, I did see that. That was quite cool. Using the summon function on that.
Yeah, but strikes me that there's a series of huge security loopholes in that. So I hope he's turned that feature off.
I would hope so too. Especially since Tesla doesn't have an official API at this point. So that was, props to the guy for totally hacking that together. That was actually pretty cool.
It's also something of a financial risk, that one. If that one, something goes wrong there, it's going to cost him a little bit of money.
Yeah, there was actually a guy that just crashed his Tesla using the summon function because it crashed into a large delivery truck.
So have you seen did you see the picture of that? It went under the tailgate of the delivery truck.
Yes, I did see that, and they're saying that it was because the back of the truck was so high that the sensors on the Tesla could not detect it, which is like wow. But that was, I'm sure that was quite an expensive mistake.
It's certainly interesting what you can do with these things now, and where the limit should be, what you should allow and what you shouldn't allow. I mean, there's so much that you can allow or could potentially allow, but at the same time, is it really worth it?
Sounds like a pretty good argument for requiring a human driver still, though, which I guess most laws are trying to do.
Yeah, well, I mean, even Tesla, when using the summon function, they they tell you it's an experimental feature, so don't wander away from your car while you're using it. You need to remain there with it and make sure everything goes as it should. So, in the event of a failure, you can, you can kill the car and not destroy something. But you know how humans are; they don't listen. So maybe there should be some more restrictions there. But I think companies like Tesla are having to walk a fine line there because they need getting people to test things. The only real way you can get it is throw it out there, and you're going to have some percentage that are going to play with it. But how far do you allow that to go? I think is the real question.
The Internet of Dangerous Things.
Yes, very dangerous things. But it's one of those things. What do you do?
So this talk I gave on, I suppose it's yesterday actually, it feels like longer ago, it was based around the idea that we basically made all those mistakes in the VoIP world. And when I'm now watching the IoT people repeat all the things about, latency, strong authentication, sensible network topologies, open protocols, well-defined protocols rather than proprietary ones, services that go bang overnight, all of these stuff that we've done over the last 10 years. We've learned how not to do stuff, and they're busy out repeating exactly the same mistakes. It's almost funny, but it kind of isn't.
No, it's not. I mean, you're not just seeing them make the same mistakes, on the small scale. It's a startup and they just got a brand new product. It may be, they've got a bunch of young guys that are doing it, but you're seeing that out of major corporations also. That's the scary part. Stuff that's rolling out to, hundreds of thousands or potentially millions of consumers out there, like the Nissan Leaf. That one was a scary one because they literally had no authentication. You saw that one, right, Tim?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Although my favorite, which came out on Tuesday, is that the all-winner chipset ships with which is in a lot of IoT devices, ships with a customized kernel blob. You're supposed to load in to run some of the devices. But one of the features of this customized kernel blob is there's a file in /proc you can write to. And if you write root my process, your process suddenly gets root rights. And so basically there's no security. Once you can write to /proc, which pretty much everything can, you're hosed.
Yeah, I saw that, and we're lucky that did not make it into the mainline kernel. because there would be a lot of boxes out there. And I saw the look on Andy's face on that. Yes, Andy, it was literally from Bash. If you had a non-root user, you could just write root my process into a specific spot on the proc file system, and boom, you're root.
That just says, please everybody, have a go at hacking the world, doesn't it? It just invites everybody to play and do nasty, naughty things with everything. It's, why do we keep going round and round and round?
Like I say, again, that one was almost funny, but on the other hand, it was so scary. I was like, and I was lucky enough that there was somebody who was proposing a solution of security by obscurity, and I just couldn't resist it. I said, well, here's an example where that's probably not such a good idea, you know.
Yeah.
You know, Jay Carpenter in IRC, I just invited him to the Hangout if he can and wants to, but he brings up a good point. Well, he actually just wanted to know if we wanted to talk about blockchain security, IoT communications, and money. And I would love somebody to blockchain with me because I keep seeing that word, and I've been too lazy to look. And also, I'm going to shut up because I don't know how good my audio is. But if somebody could take us through blockchain, I'd like to hear more about that.
Well, my maths certainly isn't up to taking anybody through blockchain. So,
Tim, while you're here.
I'm really not in a place where I can go off on that whole thing. And I'll tell you a couple of things about blockchain. One of which is that it's computationally probably too heavy for things like IoT. And what's worse, it's deliberately constructed to get heavier over time. So, like, the more things that use it, the heavier the processing is. So it doesn't strike me as something that's in its current form suitable for IoT, although some of the ideas in it I think might be interesting. And the other thing that I'm really, really like is the fact that the Bitcoin blockchain, because of course blockchain is a kind of generic technology and Bitcoin is a specific implementation with a particular monetary construction on it. But that has in it some clown signed an early transaction in the Bitcoin blockchain with a key that has contained a certificate that has contained in it a piece of ASCII art, which is of the American central banker of that date, which is Ben Bernanke. So if you look back in every single blockchain transaction, you'll find back in the tree there is ASCII art of the American central bank leader, which I think is deliciously ironic because they now can't remove it. It's like an intrinsic part of the Bitcoin blockchain, and it's not removable. Whoever did that deserves a prize.
That's funny, and I did know there was a relationship, but I honestly have not researched this. You want to talk about this from a view from 32,000 feet?
Sure, this is Jay Carpenter. Would you like me to talk a little bit about blockchain and decentralized distributed technology?
What if you started us from a real beginner level, if you're able to do that? Because I know nothing about it. I really don't. I know that I think it came from the whole the Bitcoin world, but it's part of that same technology. But if you've got to zoom out, I'd love to hear it.
Okay. Sure. So I've been looking at what's called the blockchain well, first of all, my name is Jay Carpenter, and I've been involved in communications, telecommunications, and the toll-free arena for over 20 years now. And I've been actively involved in the regulatory realm and industry organizations that are associated with communications and advising the FCC and so forth. So about a year and a half ago, I noticed something called Ethereum, and I realized that the blockchain is much, much more than just cryptocurrency. And cryptocurrency is big enough, but blockchain, the analogy that I make is Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is sort of like email was in 1995. But the real underlying phenomenon and ecosystem change was the internet. Well, now we have the blockchain, which is a combination of data, programming, peer-to-peer technology, and money. So it's basically all we've been dealing with in the past in the realm of programming and data is now being driven by money. And it's fused, money has fused into data. So Tim, maybe you've got some thoughts or comments on that sort of summary. Would you say that accurately captures it?
I have some very specific issues with Bitcoin. It's intrinsically deflationary and somewhat of a Ponzi scheme in the sense that the people who get in early get the big benefits, and everybody else pays increasingly higher and higher prices for less and less value. So it's constructed in quite a I think the economics of it are probably mercantilist in the sense that it's a closed size. There's a maximum number of bitcoins you can ever have, and I think that that actually doesn't suit modern economics. So I actually have a huge problem with Bitcoin. I think the blockchain is interesting. I think it requires a set of things that I don't think are necessarily available in terms of processing power and reliable connectivity that aren't always guaranteed for IoT devices at the moment. So I think it's in the IoT space, it's marginal. But where it becomes very interesting, I think, is, and I think this is where Ethereum is going, is using it as a way for agents to negotiate services on your behalf between themselves. So if your neighbor's solar panels have got some extra juice in them, and you want to run your clothes dryer, then the two of them can negotiate a contractual value for that transaction to happen, and it can get registered in the blockchain such that it's irrefutable. And I think those sorts of things are interesting. Sorry, I'm going to have to come out because the announcements are kicking in now.
Okay. So, Randy, does that give you kind of an overview of the blockchain dimensions of it?
To do some work on this. I'm very, very much a bandwidth handicap today, Jay. So whoever wants to take it, I'm going to take Dave Todd in and see if he's available also, and so be quiet during that. I've asked Ken also to get if any of the free switch can come. They're certainly very welcome. And Ken, if you want to talk about any, Jay, if you want to talk about anything else or continue, please do.
Okay, well, let me just continue a little bit to add to the topics that I've heard so far. I got on the session a little bit late, but so we've talked about security, we've talked about the Internet of Things, and obviously the VoIP user conference is about communications. And how does this blockchain thing fit into all of that? And I think once you start looking at it, you start to realize that this is a new paradigm for security, because the blockchain relies upon cryptographic hashing and connection and this immutable block of information that Tim was referring to. So in the realm of security, I think there's a bunch of new avenues for security that are just beginning to be explored. In terms of the IoT, well, let me stop there and ask if, Ken, do you have any questions or any comments on that, or Andy?
No, I think you've been doing pretty good so far on explaining what it is.
Yeah, just keep going.
And where we're going.
Okay. So let's talk about what Tim touched upon a little bit, which is connecting devices. And in January 2015 at the Consumer Electronics Show, Samsung and IBM demonstrated connecting two washing machines together using the Ethereum platform, as well as I believe it was BitTorrent and a communications protocol. And basically, so they connected two washing machines together that were exchanging a small amount of money, cryptocurrency basically, I believe it was Bitcoin, and when one of the machines needed a repair, it was able to actually call out, connect to a repair service, and not only order the repair, but also pay for the repair in an autonomous fashion without human intervention. So that was a proof of concept. And since then, IBM has taken a huge initiative surrounded around the blockchain. And I believe they've actually launched a blockchain service in their cloud platform. Microsoft as well has launched a blockchain service, and they have become tightly, well, let me back off from tightly, but they have become integrated with Ethereum, and they have applied the Ethereum platform and approach to blockchain within their Azure cloud platform. So this is all brand new, and it's very much experimental. What Tim was talking about in terms of these smart contracts where you can set up a program that runs itself autonomously that also has a certain monetary element associated with it, that is very much in the forefront of the experimentation and the innovation. And there have been some incredible monetary events that have happened. In fact, we're in the middle of one right now in the launch of something called a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization that basically is raised, as of a few minutes ago, is about $66 million since May 1 to serve as sort of a venture capital fund. So let me stop there and ask if anybody has any questions or comments. James, what do you know about the blockchain?
Oh gosh. Well, we've been doing things with blockchain for some little time, but you caught me. I've just come rushing in from visiting the dumping Shaftesbury, so I'm a little unprepared. I'm trying to sort out my desktop, but
okay. Well, let me take you off the hot seat. But anybody else have any comments about the blockchain and the whole paradigm that's underway?
Okay, well, I didn't know anything at all, and don't know anything at all about the Ethereum project. So what is the Ethereum project?
Yeah, tell us more about Ethereum, because that is.
So about 30 months ago, there was a 19-year-old fellow in Toronto by the name of Vitalik Buterin, who is let's say a computer science and cryptography prodigy, or listed as that. And he wrote a paper, a white paper, and it was, I believe, in late 2013. From that white paper, there was a community that sprang up in Toronto, and a group that basically started building Ethereum based upon the principles of the Bitcoin blockchain, and they actually did a crowd funding in early 2015, and they raised about $18.5 million. And then they launched their cryptocurrency, which is called Ether, in late July of 2015. And within 8 months, it achieved a market capitalization of $1.1 billion. And right now, it's right around $850 million or whatever. So Ethereum is looked upon as sort of a programmable blockchain innovation, where you can set up these smart contracts and you can start to build in logic into this crypto economy. So does that give you a little hint of Ethereum?
So it's more than just a cryptocurrency. It's got contracting built into it.
Well, one of the founders of Ethereum, whose name is Anthony Diorio, and he's kind of the business end of it. He said that they're interested in three things. They're interested in communications, payments, and identity. So if you start to think of Ethereum in those three elements, what if you had this melding together of payments, communication, and identity? That's really the three of the core pieces of the essence of Ethereum. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I tell you what, it's more or less what mobile phones companies aim to do as well. But the wonderful thing about this is that it's doing the business of mobile phone companies or cellular providers, but without the infrastructure, without the big bucks. And that is exciting.
Well, Ethereum is also, they have a virtual machine or a VM that's being labeled as the world computer. So this decentralized or distributed peer-to-peer network architecture all of a sudden becomes world computer that is powered by money. And that is a whole new dimension. So just like the internet, which is a multi-dimensioned phenomenon, the blockchain and what's happening with this decentralized or distributed peer-to-peer topology has many, many dimensions to it. It's hard to pigeonhole it into one particular area.
So going the blockchain route then, if you use something like Ethereum, are we effectively saying that the security paradigm around it prevents any form of hacking?
Well, the hacking takes on a new dimension. So if you can imagine these blocks of information that are cryptographically secured, by SHA-256, SHA-512, whatever, and they're linked by a cryptographically secured link, all of a sudden the denial of service, the ability to brute force hack passwords and all that stuff becomes very, very difficult. But there are other security vulnerabilities that arise, which is things like 51% hash or 51% hashing attacks. Now there's another thing that I've been looking at very closely and experimenting with, which is called IPFS. And IPFS stands for Interplanetary File System. And if you go to ipfs.io, you can see it. But it's called a peer-to-peer hypermedia platform. And this is a very, very interesting and very, very disruptive phenomenon where it takes content and cryptographically secures it by hashing the content, and then you address the content directly. So instead of going to a URL or a location, you actually go to a URI or identifier. And it's a whole new paradigm that is intended to sort of fix many of the vulnerabilities and flaws in the internet. So I know that's a lot to throw out there, but
you know what? This is what we get.
How that all fits.
This is what we get. This is what we get when we don't have a scheduled guest, and all these things suddenly come out of nowhere, and it's almost too much to absorb in one go, isn't it?
Well,
the
next stage to take this then is what happens with the effects of if we introduce quantum computing into this, and I think we just all go down the plug hole in a swirling mess at that point.
Well, quantum computing is on the scene, and IBM just announced a cloud quantum computing service. We'll have to see, but the conversation now is that when quantum computing arrives, which it looks like, supposedly we're close to that, then there'll be cryptography, and the cryptography will keep up with the quantum computing capabilities, but we'll see. But good point, Andy.
I find this whole thing completely frightening because it's now gone completely beyond my understanding of where we are, and I've got to relearn everything to take anything forward. So that in itself is an awkward enough task, and it's getting harder as we get older, of course.
Where's that?
Well, we talked a little bit about Raspberry Pis, and I've been setting up Raspberry Pis as well as the Intel Edison with IPFS and experimenting with that. So you can actually put blockchain platform. Now, IPFS is not blockchain, but it can be used to build blockchains. But when you start to add in board computing as well as Arduino and Intel Edison, then it takes on a whole new realm, because then you truly have this distributed peer-to-peer architecture that can be accelerated by the micro devices.
So, Jay, what are you using this for? What's the application?
Well, the application, first of all, there's a lot of experimentation with the Internet of Things, and one of the first proposals for this $66 million cryptocurrency venture capital fund, I'll call it, called the DAO, Distributed Autonomous or Default Autonomous Organization, is something called Slockit. And Slockit is, which is slock.it, I believe. If you take a look at that, that is something that's, I believe it's actually being launched in London or in the UK. But it is a way to provide a whole new realm of locks and Internet of Things connectivity. Using that's all tied together via cryptocurrency.
Oh, I see. And the headline here is rent, sell, or share anything without middlemen.
Right.
So again, it's one of these contracting things which you mentioned, going back to the Ethereum thing. That's, I think, is probably the clever, unique bit. The fact that you can contract people, and it effectively takes care of the escrow type mechanism.
Yes, there are escrow services. There's logic built into smart contracts. There's a money dimension to all of it. There's security. There's connectivity. There's something called Open Bazaar, which is like an eBay for all sorts of things. The naming, number, and addressing is being tackled by something called Blockstack.org, which is a consortium of people and entities.
Can you just give us that name again?
Blockstack.org.
Stack as an STACK.
Right.
.org. Okay.
Let me see if I can pull it up and share the.
Jay, this afternoon, or you are a wealth of useful information. It just keeps on coming.
I'm somewhat obsessed by this. If you haven't figured that out, so.
Well, it's easy to detect a certain amount of enthusiasm.
Hello, James.
Hello, Randulo.
I'm glad you could make it, and you came in the middle. James and Jay was kind enough to get this thing started. But this is a perfect proof of why the community is worth being a part of, because there are a lot of people out there, and Jay, when he comes in, has a chance to speak a little bit. I mean, we don't always have to have a guest presenting something specific. So we got on this totally organically.
And did I miss the report from Reno?
There wasn't one, but Tim is here now, and maybe he can say something about it since his flight was delayed.
Well, really? Hey,
yeah.
Timmy. Come in, Tim.
I think he's audio. Well, I don't know what he's doing.
Now not muted, but he's not making.
I definitely want to talk to you, James, urgently. So
urgently.
Later on, we'll talk via text or whatever.
Strange enough, I want to talk to you as well.
Or wire.
And linked to Jay's blockchainy, contract-free, slockety things. One of the guests that we're going to have at Hacklands at James Tagg's farm, third weekend in August, is going to be Imogen Heap, the Brit Award-winning musician, who just happens to have produced a new blockchain-based cryptocurrency with a specific aim of cutting out of the middleman from a production of music. So the whole intent is that the artists can then produce their music, distribute it, and get paid for it without having to go through some form of record company. So I thought that would interest you, Randy. And she's nice as well.
If you look at, James, if you look at ascribe.io.
So spell that for me.
Yeah, I think it's ASCRIBE.io. Yeah, .io.
Sorry, you doubled there.
ASCRIBE.io.
Got it.
You will see a blockchain-oriented service where artists can basically claim and secure their artistic works using the blockchain and using a new form of database.
Okay, and this is any type of artist, kind of generically.
Right, digital art as well as, I assume, musical art. So
I'm being spoiled here, my lovely glamorous assistant. This is, yes, darling. Has just brought me a cup of tea. It doesn't get any better than this, actually.
Hang on a moment. I wish to object. I'm sorry. You call me your glamorous assistant, and I never get yes, thank you, darling.
Yeah, but that's a joke, Andy.
Oh, damn! Is it really?
Did you not notice?
Oh, wow.
Oh dear, oh dear. Anyway.
Yeah, there's a scribe.
Yes.
So the other interesting thing about the blockchain and this whole paradigm that's happening is, in my view, it is an alternative, a better alternative to the certificate authority paradigm. So if you consider that there might be a whole new way to create distributed trust.
Well, the problem I have with that is how you start off, how you prove your identity in the first place. And with something like a cryptocurrency, the way you kind of prove your identity is you take a big slug of money and you put it in the system. And that gives you some kind of validated identity which says, I've got some funds. But for something where you want to prove your identity, well, you've got to work out how you do that. Do you do that with your passport? Or there are other models where you have a number of trusted people who say, yes, I know Randy.
Yeah, I was going to say, what about the circle of trust that PGP used for years? Wasn't it PGP?
Well, no, not PGP. It's
no, yeah, the other thing.
Cool. Ken will know that. Ken, what's that circle of trust thing? Who's disappeared?
Which circle of trust thing?
Well, the thing where you say that you actually met the person and you sign off
And
on
I
something.
remember, yeah,
there was,
BKW and Mike Jerris got us all signed up when they came across to the farm, and we ended up with some kind of certificate, which then I completely.
Well, there was a couple of certificate authorities that were trying to do that. 5 or 10 years ago, I think Red Hat was behind one, like a open, just an open, PKI infrastructure, where you would literally they had key signing parties basically.
Yes.
And it was and that was all PGP based, if I remember correctly.
Well, that's what I thought.
Or it was either just that or standard, like SSL cert type.
Wasn't this a part of when you gave a rating for how much do I trust this from like 0 to, I don't know, I can't remember what it was. It was 0 to 5.
Yeah.
And like
there was.
The ultimate trust, like 5 or 10 or whatever that number was when you're in the room with the person. You go, I know, for example, James. I've met James several times, so I'm capable of identifying the real James from some fake, weak imitation James, right?
Right.
So I can say, this is James. Or Ken. Well, I haven't met you, Ken, I don't think. So anyway, point is, these are people that you've actually met in the flesh. So obviously, that was something that's not scalable.
Really is me and not some kind of imposter who might be.
Your porn mustache, yeah.
Exactly.
I thought that Chris Matthew had joined us.
Well, strange you should say that, but have you seen the show? What happens when Chris Matthew turns up? We all start wearing Chris Matthew impersonation masks. And remember when Randy went to the hospital and he had a problem with one of his eyes, and we all had the face.
Oh, the eye patch.
That one. Yeah, there we go. Hello, I'm Randy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I say that to all the girls.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was PGP back early on.
I think that's true.
I think it was. I think it was PGP, and the term for it, I think what you're talking about, is called Web of Trust.
Yes.
And all these.
There you go.
These concepts have been around for a long time. It's just like even Bitcoin nothing was really new in the whole Bitcoin blockchain paradigm. It was just the pieces were brought together in kind of a new way.
Okay, I've got a question here. Interesting question. In the very, very early days of blockchain, I invested, I think it was $25. I changed into Bitcoin. Now I've completely and utterly lost where I put that
Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah. So where does that wealth go? Because clearly there was wealth, there was some kind of value that went in there, and it's kind of disappeared. So who benefits from that, or is it just wasted?
It's pretty much lost at this point. Whoever you bought those Bitcoins from profited from that.
But how do they profit?
From the hard cash that you gave them.
But I can't remember how I bought it.
It would be, James, it would be like if you lost the password to your bank account and you didn't have any way to reset your password, or you didn't have a customer service number that you could call to reset the password.
Perhaps it's more like me having sort of $25 in change, and then I accidentally set fire to it.
Well, you really wouldn't set fire to it. It's more like if you sat down on your couch and you lost it under the cushion of your couch and you didn't know where it went. It's still there.
And then you threw that couch away.
What's that?
And then you threw that couch away.
Yeah, well.
It's still there, but...
It's still there, but you can't find it.
And I'm just thinking this one through logically. I guess it works in a mechanism. It's a bit like a government printing money and generating money, which then causes inflation. And if you kind of lose currency and it disappears, then it acts just like that, but in reverse.
Well, not really, because Bitcoin, there's a fixed number of Bitcoins ever that that can actually be generated. So once you reach a point, Bitcoin they're either going to continue to increase in value, or they're just going to hit a wall and they're going to completely crash and it's going to be totally useless. But the only value that's there for that coin now is whoever you purchased those from in the very beginning, and then they got a monetary payment for that. So there's no value in those Bitcoins really anymore, other than they're taking up space in the blockchain and they cannot be reused. So the question is, how many people have lost their Bitcoin wallet file, for lack of a better description? So that has a net negative effect on the overall Bitcoin blockchain, because they can never be reused again. You can't get reissued. It's not like losing a traveler's check where you can call American Express and have them reissue.
No, there's clearly a market here for an electronic currency that you can't lose. Well, I lose everything.
Let me talk about a couple things, because we're touching upon Tim's concern about this being sort of a Ponzi scheme. And
sorry, what scheme?
A Ponzi scheme.
What's a Ponzi scheme?
A Ponzi scheme is where I promise you a 20% return, James, and I pay you the 20%, and then you tell all your friends, hey, go to Jay and he can give you a 20% return, and all of a sudden I get all this money.
Yeah, a pyramid.
Pyramid scheme, right. Yeah. But you can think of the cryptocurrency more like your rewards program at Starbucks. And, you go to Starbucks and every 10th coffee that you buy, you get a free coffee. And you can let those rewards build up on your Starbucks card. Now, is that money? I would say that it is money.
Well, it certainly has a value, doesn't it?
It has a value, and like your frequent flyer miles with whatever your airline is,
and they have a value as well, because you can buy additional ones with currency if you need a few extra points.
Exactly. And you can imagine these, these loyalty programs or affinity programs. What if you could sort of ball all those up and just trade them freely using like a password? Well, that's more akin to what's happening with this cryptocurrency.
That's an interesting thought for an application or a cryptocurrency, isn't it? So we're seeing things like Ascribe and Slockit, which is all about contracts and trading things. But how about doing something where you can trade things like affinity points and things like that? Because they clearly have a value, don't they?
Right, and that's one of the potential applications that's on the table. Is you could take all these rewards programs when you go down and you buy a sandwich, and you go get a cup of coffee or do whatever, and you can start to move them into something that looks like Bitcoin or a cryptocurrency, and you can start to trade those freely, using the blockchain paradigm. But let me go back to a point that you made, James, which is about how do you manage these public-private keys. And that is a big issue. And that's one of the things that's on the table, an opportunity to solve, is, people tend to lose their passwords. They lose their private keys. Now, one solution for that is something called multi-signature. So that if I lose my key, I could go to James and Tim, and you guys could basically sign together based upon my request,
okay.
and the key could be restored.
Yeah, but it would be a multi-factor authentication. Right. So you can't do it with one party. You have to put together a number of trusted parties together to get the consensus to release it. I like that idea. That's called multi-signature.
Multi-signature.
Yeah.
And there are hardware keys or hardware token containers or key containers that are starting to be developed, where you can keep your private keys on some sort of hardware container that you could turn off. So there's what's called an air gap in terms of the security. And that's an interesting area for development as well. But it is a problem to be solved as to what happens when somebody loses their private key and can't unlock whatever their asset is, be it currency or couldn't unlock the front door to your house or whatever, you know.
Access to your criminal bank account or whatever. Or even your iPhone after you've blown yourself up.
James, it's all on the up and up. It's all good stuff.
I thought you just called your law firm in Panama for your illegal bank account.
If only I had one. Yeah, I was going to talk to Gillian, my personal banker, and see what I can get an offshore account. But I'm told that they're all far too old hat now, so it's not worth doing anymore. So we've got to think of some clever way of becoming more tax efficient.
But to kind of bring it all to a summary, and to bring it back to the theme of the VUC, is that the peer-to-peer communications is a key part of the fabric of this whole paradigm.
Yes, and clearly that goes hand in hand with the authentication, because you need to prove who you are with 100% certainty.
Right.
And interesting enough, a whole pile of that is built into it at the core of Matrix. Are you familiar with matrix.org, Jay? I guess
I am.
You are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the one thing that Matrix is missing is the payment piece, or some kind of value chain in there, which it certainly doesn't have. I'm a bit of a fan.
I don't believe Matrix is peer-to-peer either. It's a client-server architecture, isn't it?
No, it is peer-to-peer. And it uses
peer-to-peer.
Ephemeral keys, which operate as blockchain. So the only infrastructure there is the thing that gives you the seed when you first start off. From that point on, you're totally, it's ephemeral blockchain-like keying, which is great because it just kind of evolves with time. What that means is every single message, every log-on, every transaction has got the audit trail behind it, so you can prove that everything that's happened really has happened. And it's great. I'm a fan. And as you know, we've had Matthew on here a couple of times.
I've watched those sessions.
Twice on IRC through Matrix. James Bodie 1 or 0. No, James Bodie and James Bodie 2.
Am I on? I was trying to get onto IRC.
You're on twice. You're on IRC twice.
I'd forgotten that. So I was struggling with the VUC.me/IRC.
Armpit view there.
Oh,
good thing we have video, huh?
Yeah. What's going on with your bandwidth, Randy? Because all of a sudden...
Terrible. Well, I'm on LTE.
Oh, so it's a bit lumpy at the moment. By the way, on a completely separate note, I found the gentleman, the gentleman plural, who designed the radio module in your free box. You know, you've got a little 3G module, or have you got an LTE?
Yes. Well, wasn't that in Voxia actually, or?
No.
Stefan.
No, I'm talking about the people who actually did the radio module.
Oh, the radio. No, I don't know. Yeah.
And they're actually Irish, little Irish gentlemen.
1746. I'm not able to upload. Oh, wait a minute. There's a problem here. I'm trying to update my.
Can I tell you about something interesting and
Sure.
completely different? And that is multi-operator neutral host small cells.
That's interesting.
It is.
Well, we wanted to do that.
And I'll tell you why it's interesting, because
needs a splashy acronym.
Yeah, Monet. But the reason it's interesting is that you might decide that you want to deploy your own LTE infrastructure and then make it available to anybody who comes near, because you might be able to generate revenue, or you just want to give service, or you want to serve applications from the edge. One of the great things about running your own infrastructure is you can put your own servers on the edge of your infrastructure and serve stuff locally. Anyway, if you're going to do that, and by the way, all the spectrum is opening up now. So I don't know whether, if you're not aware, that 3.5 gig band, that's UMTS band 42, is now live in the United States. And basically, anybody who wants to get spectrum effectively can get it, particularly if you live in the middle of nowhere, like Ken does. You have no problem getting spectrum for small cells because they don't propagate that far. Anyway, to cut a long story short, the one missing piece in this is having somebody in the feeding chain who can do the authentication and the settlement for the roaming piece. But luckily, we know a certain mobile network operator who has stepped forward to offer that as a service. Not wanting to advertise or anything, but
well, James, I know where you can place one of these sales. A physical location.
Careful, Ken, careful.
And where would I place a cell? No, and we saw so many interesting things this week at the Small Cell World Summit next to the O2 in London. So one of the things I saw was a complete mobile network, including all of the IMS stuff, the switching, the full EPC, the old packet core, but all in a cube like that. And then bolted on the bottom was the radio piece, with which had modular radio bits that will operate anything between 50 milliwatts up to 5 watts. And 5 watts is actually quite a beefy little ENO-B. There's a lot you can do with that. Well, yeah. Just to give you some kind of idea.
Compared to 100 milliwatts. By the way, in passing, Dave Tott has joined us. Hey, Dave.
Dave, we're not worthy. We're not worthy. My buffers are bloating.
Yes, we are. We are worthy, but I'm always glad to see you.
Just out of curiosity, James, what's the price point on one of these little, mini cells?
Well, strangely enough, the price is largely governed by how much power you want to run, because the most expensive component in there is the RF module. But I'm guessing that we're looking at $150, somewhere of that order. Around $150, something like that. The radio modules, incidentally, are being put together by the wonderful guys at Lime Microsystems, based in Guildford, in Surrey, in England. And it's all DSP based, so you can change the waveform, the modulation scheme, just by doing a firmware update.
Nice.
It is nice. Another thing I saw was something called GILTE, G-I-L-T-E. Again, this uses DSP radios, but GILTE actually runs both LTE and 2G GSM in the same waveform. So you can be backward compatible, so that if your grandmother turns up with her 20-year-old Nokia handset, you can find service on the same cell that's also giving you, I don't know, your full 50 megabit per second LTE with quality of service. So that was pretty cool. I quite like that. Oh, and the same guy, rather enterprising, you'll like this, Ken. The same guy has got a node that he flies on a drone. I'm amazed. I've never met this guy before. He put his hand in his pocket and he pulled out a complete, and this is not the other one, but a complete LTE base station. And he then proceeded to connect that to the rest of the world via his iPhone using a hotspot, and then connected his other phone, second phone, to it, and then called me via his node. I mean, it's bizarre.
Well, that's just interesting for, I mean, being, in the rural area. I mean, I get crappy mobile service out here.
Yeah, well, you can run your own infrastructure, but it's more than that, because if you put a whole load of these into cover an area, you can do things like very, very accurate location
Data.
fixing. Yeah, and we're talking about, I mean, the Small Cells Forum API now is quoting accuracies of sub 1 meter, which is pretty amazing, really. Whole order of magnitude better than you can get on, well, anything else at this moment in time. Oh, another concept we talked about was how you do very accurate DFing location with one cell. And you know what the answer is? You bolt it on a drone and you move it.
You don't.
So you do multiple DFs along a baseline, and the more DFs you do, obviously the more accurate the thing will be, and you kind of then gravitate towards. So you can spiral around, and then if you've got a couple of pounds of Semtex also strapped to your drone, you then go straight in and say hello to the person.
I think they already have that. It's called Harm 2.
Yeah, but do they have GSM tracking warheads? They probably do, actually. It's the sort of thing the U.S. Navy would have, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we love the U.S. Navy.
Well, I mean, I know 30 years ago they had broad spectrum tracking warheads, so it's only wacky what they might have now.
Yeah, all of a sudden it becomes very hazardous to be a member of ISIS and use a mobile phone.
Or
Yeah,
VUC.
Or VUC. Oh my gosh, was that me?
Yes, I think it's probably time to move on to the mature audience's version for this thing, but...
Why? Have you found a mature audience?
As soon as we start talking about
I figured we could start searching. We could start searching.
Actually, Randy, before you get out of here, question
Sure.
for you real quick, or maybe James or somebody else. How many of you guys are going to be in Berlin next week?
Yay! And Andy?
Yeah, four of us amongst it. So Tim as well.
There's Tim coming. He's going to be
Right.
back from Reno.
Tim said he was going to be in Berlin next week.
He's
Brilliant.
back. He's going to be in Manchester tonight, I believe, and hopefully Berlin some of the days next week. So big time meeting.
Randy, your buffers definitely are.
Sorry. All right, goodbye.
No,
Yeah.
don't go.
So
Don't go. It's just that we're used to your extremely high quality, and when
I know.
it's just a bit of a shock, really.
Terrible.
He's having connectile dysfunction today.
Terrible.
before we
Yeah.
leave,
Sorry, Jay, on the Amsterdam thing, guys. Hey, y'all be sure to look for Kathleen King and William King from the Free Switch crew there, and give them a good ration for us.
Definitely going to do that.
Where are they at the moment? In fact, I could probably answer that because I equip them with two SIM cards, so we can play. So we play. Where in the world is Kathleen?
Yeah, I want the Misdens of those, please.
Right. Okay, I'll send them across. Shall we play Where in the World is Kathleen and William? Oh, Kathleen and William, because it's good fun, isn't it?
It is, but we're going to disconnect. We're going to stop the transmission here. Jay Carpenter, thank you. Oh, my God. Yeah, I'm so bad. All right. Bye, everybody.
You're welcome. Randy, if I could just say one more thing before we sign off. While we've been talking, the DAO has gone from 68 million to 75 million.
The DAO?
The DAO funding mechanism has raised, according to my calculations, about 7 million while we've been talking.
Did I miss that? What does DAO stand for?
Decentralized Autonomous Organization. So if you go to daohub.org, you can follow along with this crowd sale.
Okay. Is it one of these things whereby I'd hate to call it a pyramid thing, but if you get in early enough, you can clean up? Is it one of those?
Well, that's what's happened so far. I mean, I'm not gonna recommend this or anything else. I'm definitely not recommending it. I'm just pointing it out. And
well, historically, I always go in as early as I can and put the odd, $25 in there. And, and see what happens.
As soon as I go in, it'll be crashing for sure. So.
With the weight of your bank accounts, Joe. That's what it is.
Right. Thank you, gentlemen. I enjoyed it. Have a great weekend.
Okay, thanks for popping in, Jay. You're always welcome. And thanks to everybody who participates in these things. And I'm sorry, I'm talking really fast, hoping the packets will get by. Bye.